Hello, Barracuda fans. Nick Nollenberger here alongside General Manager Joe Will of the San Jose Barracuda. It's been a whirlwind over the last 48 hours, Joe, with the coaching changes up top in the NHL, and it impacts the American Hockey League directly because Barracuda head coach Roy Sommer going up and now associate coach with the San Jose Sharks. So I think a lot of fans, have some questions, where the coaching is going to go, especially at the developmental side and with the American Hockey League team. So we'll start with Roy. Of course, 22 seasons in the American Hockey League. His resume talks for itself. The all-time leader in games coached, consecutive years coached, wins. Now up in the NHL, back where he kind of started with the organization as an assistant back in the mid-90s. But I think fans are going to ask the question, are you going to replace Roy? What's the situation with the coaching staff?
Well, the most important thing right now was to have Roy, Ricci, and Nabby available for the Sharks. To have loyal, trusted Sharks development people go right into the roles with the Sharks. That's what Doug and the organization needed now. With the Barracuda right now, Roy's left it in great hands in Michael Chason and Jimmy Bono, who are going to be our co-coaches. You can't replace Roy. Roy is Roy. He's unique. I don't think you want to try and replace him. Right now, we're going with co-coaches with those guys. Eventually, at some point, we'll probably go to a head coach, assistant coach, traditional role. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel here, but this is a little bit of a hit on the Barracuda as far as manpower goes. But Jimmy and Michael are very capable of the day-to-day operations and games and practices with the Barracuda. Our job now is to maybe get a few more teachers around the players, since manpower-wise, we pulled 3 guys away from the Barracuda and up to the Sharks, but we're working on that.
You mentioned co-coaches, a little bit of a unique term. So describe to people exactly what that'll entail for Jimmy Bono and Michael Chason, who were the assistant coaches, but now teaming up to kind of take a dual role leading this team forward.
Yeah, I guess what I talked with Roy about is we handed the keys to those guys to be in charge. They are the coaches of the San Jose Barracuda right now. They make decisions as far as player usage and such in a game, how to manage games, how to manage practices. Jimmy's forte is with the forwards. Michael's forte is with the D. They work very well together. They're actually very different individuals, but they complement each other very well. Much like the guys that went up to the Sharks, they're very loyal to the organization here too. They've both been scouts, and Jimmy played himself, many years in our development system, and wore a letter for us and everything else. So like the feel, everything remains the same. We're not looking to change anything. We feel that things have been operating quite well with the Barracuda, with our development and with our day-to-day game, with our coaches. Day-to-day coaching and things like that. We've had playoff experiences every year that we've been in San Jose. We expect everything just to continue, just a little bit different without Roy, Ricci, and Nabby.
We're around Chaser and Bones on a day-to-day basis, so we see firsthand why these guys are capable of taking over that important responsibility. But for fans, not only Barracuda fans, but Sharks fans, why should they be comfortable that the top prospects are in the hands of these young coaches who, as again, we've seen, what they can do and the type of energy they bring to the rink every day. But why should fans feel confident?
Because they're really mentored by, the best, and with Roy and Ricci and Nabby, and they've been around many, many years. They bleed teal, everything else, and again, I'm there to all the time watching what they're doing and everything else, and our goal right here is to keep things the same. And the other thing too, a lot of that falls on the players. We have even though we're a young team, we have a good group of leaders, a great group of leaders who, they'll make sure our standards remain high and everything else too. And I actually spoke with them today. I said, this is what we're doing with the coaches, and we're going to count on you guys. It's a group effort. So they're into it. They're excited. They're excited for Roy, Ricci, and Nabby to go up. They're excited for the opportunity here, and nobody really looks at it, poor us or something's missing. They said, hey, this is opportunity.
I think there was an initial shock just among the team because they found out a couple hours before their game the other day. But as everything has settled in, there's a nice vibe to the room. It seems like everybody's upbeat and ready to continue and forge on. You mentioned talking to the leadership group. You're the youngest team in the American Hockey League. Your average age is under 23 years old, which is incredible, almost a year younger than even the teams you've had over the last few years. But talking about the leadership, the Jake Middletons, the Nick DeSimones, the Trevor Carricks, just to name a few, the John McCarthys, How can they provide that leadership and also almost be kind of an olive branch for the coaching staff?
Well, just making sure in practice. The one thing I said to them today is don't be afraid to use this word quite often is this isn't how we do it here. To young guys and things like that, just to reinforce, if they're getting a little sloppy, if they're kind of going off on their own, they know what our way is, our standards, things like that. Make sure you enforce the standards. The coaches, myself, we even can't do that at times. It's player to player. And so it really starts with them. I trust them. Just a great group. They bleed teal. They told me today they're having a great time. A couple weeks ago it wasn't so fun when we were losing a few games here, and we still have a hill to climb here. But they're having fun. They believe in this team a lot.
We just saw last night, Thursday night, Joko Blichfeld make his NHL debut with the Sharks. Just happens to be when Roy Sommer's on the bench, now part of that coaching staff. With a lot of the development coaches now with the big club, is that something Sharks fans and Barracuda fans should expect? Young guys, getting opportunities to crack, the NHL lineup and try to prove their worth?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, one thing that we're talking about is talking with Doug and some of the management staff is, it's happening throughout the NHL. You have Bruce Cassidy in Boston. You have Craig Berube in St. Louis. You have a number of what just happened in Toronto then with Sheldon Keefe. You have a number of people from the minor league system going up top with the NHL team because they know the players. It's you need young players developed quickly. You need them ready to go in the league, and you have to have a connection with them. And we know that Roy does, Ricci does, Nabby does, and Bob Bugner he does as well. So it's a great opportunity for these guys. They know that. They see that. Our players here with the Barracuda, they see, hey, it's a fresh start. It's a new staff. They know the commitment. They've been told by Doug. They've been told by everybody that, there's great opportunity for them to step up. Roy told them before the game the other night, he goes, well, you got three voices in the room now with Roy and Ricci and Nabby who are going to sing your praises if you earn it. And we saw a pretty inspired team the other night. It was like some of the guys were actually trying out and such. And Boogie and Roy talked about it. They wanted to take a shot at, or they wanted to take a look at Blitchy. They were looking at some shooting, some scoring, right shot. So it's going to go with ingredients too. It's not necessarily going to be in a pecking order of this guy or that guy. It's going to be by, well, we need a left shot today, we need a right shot today, we want a guy in this role, a guy in that role. And I, expect over time, my gut tells me we'll see, a few Barracuda players come up probably in the not so distant future.
Well, we saw earlier in the season, health can play a big impact on that as well. The big club has gotten healthier. That's impacted the AHL club, and it seems like that group has begun to turn around, kind of turn that corner. Into December now, just a couple points out of a playoff spot. Again, we mentioned the youngest team in the league. Give us your overall assessment so far through the first month or so, or 2 months or so here to the season for the Barracuda.
It's been some ups and downs, but it's kind of to be expected, as you mentioned. We're such a young team, and I don't say that as an excuse, but it's really a reality. We get some issues of maturity and lack of experience in particular things. Players that came in were highly skilled, and what we've seen that in certain games. I think against every team in our division, we put up huge scores, and so the offense has been there, the creativity, the speed, the skill, everything else has been there. But we've been making some huge mistakes. Part of it was a little lack of compete. Part of it was, just some, we were cheating. So we were trying to, cheat for offense, not cover defensively, things like that. And, those are unacceptable things. The acceptable things generally are honest mistakes of a young player just not really knowing a particular situation. Those we can fix, and those we'll live with. And in most games we can actually outscore and do things like that. But that's what we expect. Our compete's been way up. Our team's kind of been battling for each other and things like that as we've seen. It's on the uptick. We had a great game against Ontario. We had a great game against Bakersfield. And I expect more of those and less of the stinkers that we kind of had early that, are part of a young team. But again, we played 22 games. I think we have 46 left. So there's a lot of the season left. And as you see in the American League, a lot of times once you kind of catch that uptick, it goes. Now it's up to, Bones and Chaser and and the leadership to keep the standards high, and I believe good things can happen for this team.
Describe to us how things are going to slot. Mike Ricci has gone up as an assistant. Evgeni Nabokov is now the goaltending coach with the Sharks, so there's some movement there. Describe to us how everybody will kind of slot and fill those roles with the Barracuda.
Yeah, for right now, I really want Michael and Jimmy just to kind of have their time to get used to it because it's a little different role for them. Roy always took the lead on things. Now they're going to have to take the lead, and so I'm going to give them a little time to do it. And they have great support with Nick Nollenberger, who's our video coach and our manager of hockey operations, who does everything behind the scenes, and a good guy, a product of the Junior Sharks system here. But Nick helps them a ton. And then, you know what, we're going to have our development staff come in, like Brian Marchment will be around probably a little bit more. Ryan Hamilton, who was, a couple of years ago captain of the Bakersfield Condors, who now is on our pro scouting staff, he's going to come around working with the forwards. Nabby is still working with the goaltenders of both levels. He's given the Sharks a little more attention right now, but, he's pretty much daily in touch with Coronar and Shortridge. And then we'll have Dirk Graham around, Ned Coletti, other mentors that we have within the organization, just to make sure that things are going well, that the players have somebody to talk to, the staff does, and just getting that manpower up. Will I bring somebody else in? Quite possibly. We took 3 important people out, but we're going to do it methodically, carefully. With people that come in right now, they're not going to change things. They're going to do things the way that works for us, and then people that bleed teal.
Joe, last question for you. Roy Sommer, now part of the Sharks coaching staff. We joke about it. It would be weird without Roy in some capacity in this organization. And when you have guys of that character, you want to keep them around for a long time, as he has been. So it would probably be safe to say, whether he's in the role he is now, whether he's coming back to the Barracuda, whatever position he holds in the near future, it's probably going to be here, and probably safe to say he's got a job here with the Sharks.
Yeah, Roy is just a Shark. That's what he is, and that's why this was so easy with Roy and Reach and Nabby, is they just said to Doug, "What do you need us to do?" It's just a good people that are there, and Doug gave them a new assignment to do with this, and that's simply what it is. They're employees of the Sharks, longtime employees of the Sharks. Whether they're players or Roy's path of coach starting in the NHL, actually come back to the AHL and going back. It's just they're guys that say, "What do you want us to do?" So this is their assignment now. Maybe down the line it's something else. I don't know, but it's a very important assignment for them right now. We're really looking forward to what they do with that. And I mean, it was the first thing. It was my favorite line. Like Roy walked into the room over at the Sharks, and Jumbo goes, "Well, Roy," he goes, "you set a new record, 23 years between call-ups." So
wow.
It was pretty cool.
You can expect Joe to always have a funny line ready to go. We'll miss Roy, especially here in the American Hockey League. There's nothing like having him around, but we know the team's in good hands. Thanks so much, Joe. We appreciate it. Give us a little bit of a state of the franchise here with the Barracuda. Can't thank you enough for the insight.
Thanks, Nick.
For Joe Will, I'm Nick Nollenberger. Thanks for watching.